I'm Valerie Owens, chair of the Biden Institute at the University of Delaware. Today, I have the privilege of introducing former city councilor, entrepreneur, and current congressional candidate, Stefany Shaheen. Thank you, Stefany, for joining us on this episode of All Politics is Personal, a program where we introduce the public to the person behind the politician. Anyone can research your policies and accomplishments, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about you. So tell us, if you will, about your life. Tell us about growing up Shaheen.
I was born in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and I was raised in Madbury, which is the town very close to Dover, where my dad also grew up, right next to the University of New Hampshire.
Do you have extended family? Do grandparents?
My dad was raised in a two-bedroom apartment. He shared one bedroom with three sisters, and the entire apartment building was occupied by uncles, cousins. So if he didn't like what his mother was cooking for dinner, he'd go to the apartment downstairs and eat with his aunt and uncle and his cousins.
What are some of your earliest childhood memories?
Well, it's funny because most of my childhood memories early on surrounded time in Dover, because I went to preschool in Dover and had childcare in Dover, and my grandparents would pick us up, and my grandfather was the sheriff for the county. And so I vividly remember him one day picking me up at preschool, and he came in his uniform, and of course he had a holster and he had his badge, and the kids just thought he was the coolest thing ever. And of course I did too. He was my grandfather, and he'd pull up in the sheriff car and give the kids a tour of the car.
Turn on the siren?
Oh yeah. And show everybody his badge. He'd take his badge off and let them hold it and try it on. And so I just have these very fun memories of being a little kid in Dover with my grandparents, going to the local bakery for the Maple Square Harvey's Bakery, which sadly just closed after 97 years. Oh. And there was a little grocery store across the street from their apartment building that my grandmother would take me to for snacks. And the Christmas parades in Dover, like all my cousins were there because so much of our extended family lived there.
So you come from a family immersed in politics, so it's in your DNA. But was it always in your heart now that you are officially into the realm?
It was really, I think I instilled early in my life was a commitment to public service. I saw it in both of my parents, whether they were volunteering for a campaign or a candidate or working on a campaign or for a candidate. I ran for local office when my kids were young. I served on the Portsmouth City Council, and then I served as chair of the Portsmouth Police Commission. But really what compelled me to get into this current race is that I have a daughter with type 1 diabetes who was diagnosed 17 years ago. And that diagnosis—
At what age?
She was 8. She was 8. It was shortly after her 8th birthday, and right over Thanksgiving weekend. We were away, and she was not acting like herself. She hadn't really been acting like herself for several months before. And we happened to be staying someplace where she was able to go swimming. We were in a hotel that had an indoor pool, and we saw her in a bathing suit for the first time since the summer, and it didn't fit. All of a sudden her normal bathing suit wasn't fitting. It was too big, and it looked like she had lost some weight. And then we were all sharing a hotel room, so I heard her getting up multiple times in the middle of the night to drink water and go to the bathroom, which was not like her at that stage in her life. And earlier in the fall, when she was in school, her math teacher was saying she was really struggling with math, and she was reporting that she had trouble seeing the blackboard. So we went and had her eyes checked, and the eye doctor said, no, eyes are fine. And so after that weekend, we had a situation, literally, that we were getting our Christmas tree, and she had an accident at the Christmas tree farm, couldn't make it to the bathroom in time. And I thought, oh no, this is something that's really wrong. So we took her to the doctor, and we were rushed to Boston Children's Hospital. And by the time we got to Boston Children's Hospital, the doctor who treated her in the ER said if we had gone home without a real diagnosis, she might not have made it. And so that diagnosis changed the trajectory of my whole life. Ellie was the oldest of 8, and we had 4 children under the age of 8. At the time of her diagnosis, I had a 2-year-old and was also working and trying to commute back and forth from my home to my job. And I mean, that reality, like I vividly remember sitting on the radiator at Boston Children's Hospital looking out the window, and we were alone in her room, and she was attached to all these tubes, and thinking, I could just feel myself slipping into despair. You know, it's the despair that comes from a parent who's helpless to prevent their child's suffering and thinking, how are we going to do this? How is this going to work? And there was something in me in that moment, and I really think it was my parents and my ancestors, my grandparents sort of reminding me that I can do this, and I have no choice but to do it, and I've got to find a way to make something good come from it. And that really was, I mean, I think it was a turning point in my life because it changed the trajectory of all of my work. I really then dedicated myself to innovation in healthcare, to medical research. I launched a small business to help people with chronic conditions like diabetes, and none of that would have happened were it not for this reality that we couldn't have prevented.
So how old is your daughter now?
She's now 25. She's been living with the disease for 17 years.
But you just flipped the switch to go into elective office yesterday.
Really, it's been the assault on healthcare in this country over the last 3 months. I think if you look at the devastation of the cuts to medical research, the threats to Medicaid, the threats to innovation in healthcare overall, and what it's going to mean for families like mine and for science and innovation and economic development in this country. You know, when I think about what Ellie's life was like when she was first diagnosed, she was pricking her fingers 10 to 12 times a day to draw blood to test her blood sugar. Now she wears a continuous glucose monitor and very rarely has to prick her fingers. That's because of innovation and research that was done to advance the technology for her. When she was first diagnosed, she was taking shots of insulin multiple times a day, 8 to 10 shots a day. Anytime she would eat anything, she'd have to take a shot. Now she wears a pump that does that automatically with her programming it from her iPhone. None of that would have happened without investment in research. Yeah. And as we see what's happening actually just down the road from where we are in Manchester right now, there's been a huge movement to build the biomanufacturing economy. And we've got so much momentum on developing new therapies for chronic diseases. And all of that is fueled by innovation and research. And if we don't have the funding to do that work, it will all stop. And we're not talking about stopping for, you know, a year or two. This is a generational loss because you're going to lose your best and brightest scientists. You're going to prevent young people from being able to enter these fields. And it's just not the right thing for America. We're the leaders in healthcare in the world.
Well, this generation of young people in high school and college are dealing with the changing environment. When you were in high school, what was your concern? Where'd you go to high school?
I went to Oyster River, our public high school right in the town I grew up in.
And did you like school?
I loved the opportunity to learn and work with some of the most amazing teachers. In fact, I wrote a book and I dedicated part of the book to my English teacher who saw in me an ability to write that I didn't see in myself. And I remember her saying to me at one point, you're really good at speaking, but you struggle when you try to translate what you want to say to the page. She said, just write, speak your paper and then write it. And so she gave me this little tape recorder and it started me on this path of translating what I wanted to say to the written word. And that really did change my life. It helped me be a much better communicator. I love school. And in high school, I really identified as a student athlete. I played basketball and volleyball. I was captain.
What position?
Volleyball, in high school I was a middle hitter, but I'm definitely not tall enough to be a middle hitter. So in college I played outside hitter. In basketball I was a guard, sometimes a forward.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to Fairfield University in Fairfield, Connecticut.
That's a Jesuit school?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. I went on a volleyball scholarship and I played, some of my best friends were on my high school teams and on my college teams.
What about your siblings?
I'm the oldest of 3 sisters. I have a middle sister, Stacy.
Oh, your father.
Yes. My dad always says, he was one of 4 with 3 sisters, and then he's the father to 3 daughters. Yeah. And then he jokes, and then God went and made my wife the governor.
Well, your father's a pretty.
Yes.
He was raised by strong women.
Exactly.
That's what makes him such a good man.
Exactly.
And smart guy right now.
Exactly. And now on the grandchildren front, I have 3 daughters and 1 son, and my sister has 3 boys. So now the boys outnumber the girls by 1. So it's 4 boys and 3 girls.
So you are when you took your basketball, you were a basketball coach then.
Volleyball coach.
Oh, it was volleyball.
Yes. So so I played volleyball through college, and I actually came home to work on my mom's first run for governor. And when I did that, my sister was still in high school. And so I came back to our high school, my former high school, and coached the junior varsity team when she was on the varsity team. And then much later, I became the varsity volleyball coach of the Portsmouth High School girls volleyball team where my daughter was playing.
Was that a full-time job or was that a volunteer?
No. But yeah, it wasn't entirely volunteer, but it was not a full-time job. Yes, it was a very small stipend to be a high school coach. Yes,
that's
yes.
right. All right, so you've got your siblings.
Yes.
And do you all live near each other or all involved?
The two younger sisters, Stacy lives next door to my parents. They built a house next door to my parents' home, which is only about 10 minutes from me. We raised our family in Portsmouth, which is very close to the town we grew up in. And then my sister Molly actually she's launched her business in Dover, where my dad grew up. So she's here a lot too.
When you were growing up, did my mom and dad always had various expressions, mantras that today refrain in my head, and I find myself growing up with my children saying the same thing.
Oh, sure.
They were, you have to be a man of your word, or a woman of your, well, my dad said, you have to be a man of your word.
Yes.
And mom, your reputation goes before you.
Sure.
Do you have any of those from?
The one that has been resonating with me the most lately is there's two things he says, especially as it relates to campaigning. He says, don't worry, just work, which I really appreciate because,
How do you do that?
I know, it's so hard. It's so hard. His philosophy is if you just keep working and you just keep moving, you're going to get closer to the goal that you're set up for yourself.
But yeah.
And then he also says, this one I really love, he says, if you look to your left and you look to your right and you're proud of the people you're standing with, you're in the right place.
Oh, that's...
And I think that's really true. And then, he'll say, and then shoulder to shoulder, you can get wherever you want to go.
That's it. They're wise.
Yes.
How about faith and religion? Does that play a part? Does it play a part in your life?
It does for me, I think, more than anyone else in my family, except for maybe my dad, in the sense that he grew up, he went to Catholic school before he graduated from Dover High School, but he went to St. Mary's through middle school.
Had the nuns?
Yes, had the nuns, and grew up in a Catholic family. In fact, the reason his family immigrated here is because of religious persecution.
Where did they immigrate from?
Lebanon. And they're Maronite Catholics.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And they were being persecuted, and they sought refuge in the U.S. And so a big part of my heritage and cultural connection to his family was the Maronite Catholic Church in Dover, just down the street from the apartment building they grew up in. And still operational today. People still attend, still support the church. And so for me, that was what it meant to be part of this family. You'd show up at church on Sunday, and it was all my aunts and cousins and my grandmother, who was a very important influence in my life. And I graduated from public high school, went to public school K through 12 in where I grew up, but then went to Fairfield for college, and really resonated with the Jesuit tradition of social justice and the importance of fighting for people. And it's always been a comfort to me. In fact, when Ellie was diagnosed, I really leaned on that in those early, dark, scary days.
As Kierkegaard said, faith sees best in the dark.
Yes, exactly. I love that quote. I just got goosebumps.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said to. I'm a practicing Catholic. My family, and we were talking about it, and it's not so much. I think being a Catholic is part of a culture as much as a religion. And we didn't pray together every night, but we darn sight got up for Mass every Sunday and didn't eat meat on Friday, and gave up that candy and ice cream for Lent.
Yes.
So it was always a discipline, but it's a great refuge. To fall back on.
For me, it's Coca-Cola I give up for Lent, and I don't drink coffee. but I have a sugar craving often, and so Coke is my vice. And Lent, it's always hard to not have Coke.
Okay.
It kills me.
All right. This is what I used to do. I gave up Coke because that's what I drink.
Yes.
For Lent, and it was so hard. And I said, I'm going to give up wine instead. So it's easier to give up wine
than Coca-Cola.
Than Coca-Cola.
I can appreciate that.
So can I get to something less serious?
Sure.
Than Coca-Cola?
Sure.
How about some rapid fire questions? What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I think I would love to be a teacher. Then I could be in school all the time.
One word to describe yourself.
Compassionate.
Oh, all right. Favorite movie?
Miracle on Ice.
Favorite music?
Oh, I love all kinds of music. My go-to is probably the music I grew up with, which was Carole King.
Favorite food?
French fries.
Do you have a hidden talent?
Well, I ran the Boston Marathon, but I can't say that a hidden talent is running because I'm not a good runner.
But that's an athlete.
But yes.
You're an athlete.
Yes, I'm an athlete. And I did it with a broken femur, which was ridiculous.
That means, means you're not so smart.
Yes. Maybe the word to describe me is, not compassionate, but determined.
But determined, okay. If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Oh, I love this one. I mean, if I could do anything, I'd cure diabetes. If I had a superpower, it would be to be a stem cell biologist with the ability to cure diabetes.
I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Coming and talking about because you are the living, breathing example that all politics is personal.
It's true. It's true. And I think we both come from families where the lives of our loved ones embody that whole sentiment, that all politics is personal. It's supposed to be about people.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being here.
So fun.
Thank you to our partners at the Stavros Niarchos Foundation. And remember, all politics is personal.